the man who took the snooker world by storm by winning the World Professional Championship in his very first year as a pro. Ladies and gentlemen, the Irish Hurricane himself, Alex Higgins.
Alexander Gordon Higgins, born on 18 March 1949, was a Northern Irish professional snooker player and a two-time world champion who is remembered as one of the most iconic figures in the sport's history. Nicknamed Hurricane Higgins for his rapid play and known as the People's Champion for his popularity and charisma, he is often credited as a key factor in snooker's success as a mainstream televised sport in the 1980s. Higgins turned professional in 1971 and won the World Snooker Championship in 1972, defeating John Spencer 37-31 in the final to become the first qualifier to win the world title, a feat that only two other players, Terry Griffiths in 1979 and Shaun Murphy in 2005, have achieved since. Aged 22, he was then the sport's youngest world champion, a record he held until 21-year-old Stephen Hendry won the title in 1990. He was World Championship runner-up to Ray Reardon in 1976 and Cliff Thorburn in 1980. At the 1982 event, Higgins came from 13-15 behind to defeat Jimmy White 16-15 in the semi-finals, producing a 69 clearance in the penultimate frame that is regarded as one of the greatest breaks in the sport's history. He defeated Reardon 18-15 in the final, winning his second world title 10 years after his first. Images of a tearful Higgins holding his baby daughter after his 1982 victory are regarded as some of the most iconic in the history of British televised sport. Higgins won Masters titles in 1978 and 1981 and won the UK Championship in 1983, where he recovered from 0-7 behind to defeat Steve Davis 16-15 in the final. As of 2023, he is one of 11 players to have completed a career Triple Crown. He won the World Doubles Championship with White in 1984 and played with Dennis Taylor and Eugene Hughes on the All-Ireland team that won the World Cup 3 consecutive times from 1985 to 1987. Remembered for his turbulent lifestyle, Higgins was a lifelong heavy smoker, struggled with drinking and gambling, and admitted to using cocaine and marijuana. He had tempestuous relationships with women. Both his marriages ended in divorce, and he had widely publicized altercations with other girlfriends, one of whom stabbed him 3 times during a domestic argument. Most notably when he was fined £12,000 and banned for 5 tournaments in 1986 after headbutting an official, and banned again for the entire 1990-91 season after punching another official and threatening to have Taylor shot. Higgins retired from the professional tour in 1997. Diagnosed with throat cancer the following year, he died of multiple causes in his Belfast home on 24 July 2010, aged 61. The only son of Alexander and Elizabeth Higgins, he grew up on Abingdon Street with his sisters Isabel, Anne and Jane. The family lived near the Jam Pot, a snooker and billiards hall in the Sandy Row estate, which Higgins frequented from age 10, running bets for his father and doing odd jobs. He took up snooker the following year, initially at the Jam Pot before he began practicing with more challenging opponents at the Shaftesbury and YMCA clubs in the city centre. In 1967, he joined the Snooker League at the Mount Pottinger YMCA, where he faced tougher opponents. He practiced as much as 6 hours a day, studied weaknesses in the other players, and devised new shots in his game. In doing so, he became the first player to win the title at his first appearance and, aged 18, was the youngest winner. 1 week later, he won the All-Ireland Amateur Championship and turned professional for a short spell before reverting to amateur status. He was appointed captain of the Mount Pottinger YMCA team. The following year, he lost his Northern Ireland amateur crown, losing 0-4 to Desi Anderson in the final. Professional career. The 1972 World Snooker Championship began in March 1971 and concluded in February 1972, and Higgins won the title at his first attempt. Higgins won the world title for a second time in 1982. He eliminated Jim Meadowcroft 10-5 in the first round, then won the deciding frame of this match against Doug Mountjoy and prevailed 13-10 against Willie Thorne. In the semi-final, he trailed Jimmy White 13-15 in the best-of-31 match, but took the 29th frame and then compiled a break of 69 against White in the penultimate frame. His final professional triumph was in the 1989 Irish Masters at the age of 40 when he defeated a young Stephen Hendry. This was the last professional tournament he won and is often referred to as the Hurricane's last hurrah. At the 1990 British Open, Higgins lost 10-8 in the final against Canadian player Bob Chaperon, which was his last appearance in a major final. Higgins received a runner-up prize of £45,000, the highest of his career. During his 15-month ban, Higgins released a biography video, I'm No Angel, in 1991. Post-retirement. After his retirement from the professional game, Higgins spent time playing for small sums of money in and around Northern Ireland. He made appearances in the 2005 and 2006 Irish Professional Championship, these comebacks ending in first-round defeats by Gary Hardiman and Joe Delaney, respectively. On 12 June 2007, it was reported that Higgins had assaulted a referee at a charity match in the northeast of England. 77. Higgins returned to competitive action in September 2007 at the Irish Professional Championship in Dublin, but was whitewashed 0-5 by former British Open champion Fergal O'Brien in the first round at the Spa Club Templeogue. 78. Playing style. In describing Higgins's unconventional playing technique, his fellow professional Willie Thorne said that he does everything wrong. His stance is square, he lifts his head, his arms bent, he snatches at some of his shots. Thorne concluded that Higgins would be the worst example for an aspiring player to imitate. Higgins' grip on his cue was less firm than typically employed by professional players. Author Brendan Cooper wrote that beset with twitches, sniffs, and odd jerks of the limbs, Higgins would approach the table like a battered boxer trying to stay upright. Outside snooker, Higgins married twice and had 4 children from 3 different relationships. In 1971, he met Joyce Fox and they had a son, Chris, in 1975. They separated 6 months later. In 2001, Fox told her son that Higgins was his father, and they reconnected in 2003. In April 1975, Higgins married Australian-born Cara Hassler in Sydney. They had a daughter, Crystal, and their divorce was finalised in 1979. In January 1980, Higgins married Lynn Avison in Wilmslow, Cheshire. They had a daughter, Lauren, in 1980 and son Jordan in 1983. They split in 1985 and divorced. In the same year, Higgins began a relationship with Sivan Kidd, which ended in 1989 after he allegedly hit her with a hairdryer. Illness and death. For many years, Higgins smoked heavily. He reportedly smoked 80 cigarettes a day. He had cancerous growths removed from his mouth in 1994 and 1996. In June 1998, he was found to have throat cancer. On 13 October of that year, he had major surgery. He could only talk in a whisper in his last years. By the summer of 2010, Higgins' weight had fallen to 6.5 stone, 41 kilograms. Despite having once been worth £4 million, he was bankrupt and survived on a £200 a week disability allowance. He was found dead in bed in his flat on 24 July 2010. The cause of death was a combination of malnutrition, pneumonia, tooth decay, and a bronchial condition, although his daughter Lauren stated that he was clear from throat cancer when he died. His children survived him. Legacy. Alex Higgins was an inspiration to many subsequent professional snooker players, including Ken Doherty, Jimmy White, and Ronnie O'Sullivan. In Clive Everton's TV documentary, The Story of Snooker, Steve Davis described Higgins as the one true genius that snooker has produced, although contemporary leading professional Willie Thorne described him as not a great player. Higgins arguably fulfilled his potential only intermittently during his career peak in the 1970s and 1980s. Everton put this down to Davis and Ray Reardon generally being too consistent for him. O'Sullivan has called Higgins the greatest snooker player I have ever seen when he was playing at his best, while also acknowledging that his erratic lifestyle caused Higgins to have a lack of consistency on the table.